it does take me from 90% over here to about 70-30 or 60-40, however that feels to you. You never should be able to ever tap your toes. You only should be able to tap your heels. When the player sits back, typically it pulls their upper body back a little bit and the hands get a little higher. Yeah. So it decreases leverage between the lead arm and the club and then leads to more of this. But watch, so if you're outside, you know, hey, it might need to be that you need to focus more on getting the butt of the club immediately towards the golf ball more, using your body's turn in the golf club. So one of the things I'm real big on, you know, just some small stuff in the setup, right? It doesn't look that far off when you visually look at it. But then when I draw lines, things change a little bit. So for example, I draw a line from the ankle up to the hip, right? When you look at a lot of the best players in the world, especially the ones I teach, you know, you're going to see the hips and the ankles are always more in line. So the hip joint, we're talking the ball and socket joint right there. I just like to keep that right in line with the ankle. And the reason why I do that, and here's the thing, you know, Kev, go over here with Brendan. I want to show you guys this. When I stand on an alignment rod, a lot of our viewers have seen this. I like to illustrate it like this. If I have my hip and ankle aligned, I have 50% of my weight here and 50% there. Now, when I tilt over, bud, okay, now nearly 90 to 100% is on this side. But what I do is when I flex down slightly, I'm flexing straight down, like I'm almost pushing my knees into the balls of my feet, feeling like if the scale was on this side right here, not that side, I'm putting more pressure into that front side. Now, when I do flex, it does take me from 90% over here to about 70-30 or 60-40, however that feels to you. Yeah. But the majority of the weight being on that side. Now, when people sit back with their heels, a lot of times what happens is the weight's pre-set in the heel. So a lot of times the club will swing around a little bit more and get inside. And then a lot of times what happens is because the weight's already loaded in the heel, the club will then get to the top and the hands will get to the top by themselves. I want to ideally see the pressure still be out here when the club's halfway back. And then when I get to the top, the weight loads into the heel simultaneously as everything arrives at the top. So that's something really simple that can be done simply from the proper setup, okay? So getting that hip more aligned with the ankle. Now, and having everything sit back leads a lot of times to the club sweeping a little bit low and inside, okay? So when the club's in line with your feet and in line with your hands, it's low, okay? Now, when the club's in line with feet and his hands, you see how it gets more set up into the hands there? Yep. And then what happens is it sets on top of that right forearm, and you're going to see yours is going to get a little bit underneath right there at the set position. If I'm you, this is my routine today. I'm sitting in here like this. I'm saying, okay, hips are over ankles, and by the way, hips over ankles will help this. Yeah. Here's why.
Well, it makes sense when you showed it.
The player who sits back, not only do they get more around you, I'm going to show you something a little bit extra. When the player sits back, typically it pulls their upper body back a little bit and the hands get a little higher. Yeah. So it decreases leverage between the lead arm and the club and then leads to more of this. But watch, getting the right posture. See how it drops my hands a little lower? Yep. Now the angle increases and look at this. Naturally the club hinges better. Yeah. So if I'm in here, I'm hips over ankle, walking and feeling like I'm on my toes. Now, something my mentor always told me was you never should be able to ever tap your toes. You only should be able to tap your heels and barely wiggle your toes. That's for pretty much every single shot in the game, other than maybe an uneven lie where you're trying to balance yourself a little bit. But there you go. See, that's money. And then the feeling, go ahead and set up again. Yeah. And the feeling for me, a little downward there, a little upward here, a little more of that. We referenced Chase earlier. Here, we'll use him. He's hitting balls over here next to us to give you an idea. Can you see that all right, Kev? Yeah. So watch us. See that? Club got out. There's the opposite right there. More of what Brendan needs to feel. Club didn't quite set on plane, so then it would come down a little steeper there. Okay, and now watch this. Just a couple swings later. Even I think it was the next swing. Woo. Chase, and look at that, right back on plane. Much more on plane there, and the club actually came down then. More on plane on the way down. A player earlier, Chase, who was outside. So if you're outside, you know, hey, it might need to be that you need to focus more on getting the butt of the club immediately towards the golf ball more, using your body's turn in the golf club. You know, we're all trying to get to a very similar spot, the spot that requires the least amount of manipulation throughout your swing. Now, what a player, that was beautiful right there, so much more compression. What a player has to feel like, though, from the inside versus the outside. I will say this, the outside guy is easier to teach typically because it's easier to take it back a little more inside. Why? For the same reason the majority of people are inside, because it's following the direction of the body's turn. Why do people go over the top on the way down? Because it follows the direction of the body's turn, right? So great time right now to sharpen up two things. Exactly what you're doing today. A little better setup and a takeaway. Because guys, golf is a domino effect. You know, you knock down the first domino, which is this. I would never tell somebody who's sitting back like this to get the club out there until they made the appropriate change with their setup. Yes. At Porzak Golf, we take a lot of pride in having developed some of the best and most consistent golf swings on the planet. We do this through simplicity. Our Full Swing Masterclass will take you on a step-by-step, easy-to-understand process on how to get your golf swing better than ever. Join the many before you who've utilized our Full Swing Masterclass to take their games to the next level and beyond.